7:07 on the Morning Majority. Brian Eamon, Mary Walter in this morning. Happy Monday if that's possible, especially with the rain. Something that will cheer you up. Joe DiGenova is with us, our legal expert, former U.S. Attorney for D.C., and an overall great guy. Morning, Joe.
Brian.
Listen, I know that there's a explanation for this, so maybe you can help me out because sometimes I'm dense and I don't quite get it. But how is it that we can bomb another country, blow things and people up without getting the approval of Congress, a declaration of war? I didn't like it in Iraq, and now that we're doing it in Libya, I don't like it now either. How is that possible that can happen?
Because, Brian, the United Nations has told us that it's okay. This is what's really fascinating about this. And you watch the Democratic senators squirm on the Sunday shows when asked, don't you think the president should come to Congress and ask for the authority to do this? The fact is that all presidents, Republican and Democrat, have ignored the War Powers Act, which was the brainchild of J. William Fulbright, who opposed the Vietnam War, which requires the president to notify Congress of various military-type activities. No president has complied with it. They usually, after the fact, send notice to Congress, usually a letter or some official document saying we're doing this, but they don't seek Congress's permission to proceed. And then Congress can pass a resolution which is of no import whatsoever, saying it approves or disapproves of what the president has done. So the answer is that the imperial presidency started way back, and it's where it is, and many of us believe that it's good for a president to have the right to act quickly. We don't need a vote of Congress if we've been attacked, like we were on 9/11 or Pearl Harbor. But it's probably pretty good that the president quickly go to Congress and discuss what he's doing so that they can talk about how limited they want it to be before he gets us in too far. I mean, if you're on the left, if you're a lefto in this country, you look at Obama and you see increased drone assassinations in Afghanistan, expanding the war in Afghanistan, a new war in North Africa, and you say to yourself, I thought George Bush was in Texas.
Right.
Yeah, Michael Moore's a little upset with him.
That makes me happy.
Just watching Michael Moore be upset makes everybody happy.
Yeah.
To change topics here, the Washington Times ran an article on the Mayor Gray and his newly elected administration, and some accusations about some of the people that he has hired. And what they've been writing about is Sharita Whiting, who is a special assistant at the Department of Parks and Recreation. Apparently, according to this, she never disclosed a felony conviction on her job application.
Nobody's perfect.
And you're supposed to do that within 10 years, any felonies you have within 10 years of your job application. So I can understand wanting to fire someone if they don't disclose something they're supposed to disclose on their form, because that's lying. Would that felony, though, necessarily preclude someone from being hired in the first place?
Not necessarily. That's a function of state law everywhere. Some states have laws that don't permit you to work for the government in certain types of jobs, but you still could work at other jobs. It depends. Some states have laws where you've committed a financial crime. You can't have a job where you actually touch money. That's not a shocker.
So she can't do anything because of the wire fraud thing.
Right. So, I mean, D.C. law is very strange, as should surprise no one. And in her case, because she theoretically lied on an application, she can be fired for that. The failure to disclose something as serious as that is a firing offense.
Do you see that happening?
She'll be gone.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
She'll be gone.
Because
remember, this is all about congressional oversight. The mayor has created a monster for himself by managing so poorly from inauguration on. And remember, the city gets a huge amount of money. The federal government is their prison system. There's no prison in the District of Columbia. All D.C. prisoners get sent all over the United States to federal prisons. The U.S. government pays for the prosecutor's office, pays for the entire court system, the marshals. This has become a big deal for the city. Gray's mismanagement and the inherent corruption that appears to be everywhere has now become a major funding problem for the city.
How concerned should Vincent Gray be about an investigation into his office and what he's done so far? The FBI, I know, is looking into that. How concerned should he be right now?
Well, he should be concerned about his administration, not about himself personally. My guess is that, the text message that he sent Mr. Brown, which really is why this thing is where it is, probably is ambiguous enough that, if the mayor's smart, he'll lawyer up, he'll do the right thing. He certainly won't lie. He'll tell the truth if he decides to be interviewed. He's not going to be able to take the fifth, unfortunately. He's the mayor, so if he takes the fifth, he's over. He may have to be removed from office, but that's not going to happen. I think this probably, for him personally, may not be as big a deal as it's going to be for some other people who worked for him during the campaign.
All right, the murder case at the Lululemon store in Bethesda, where 28-year-old Brittany Norwood, said she was tied up, sexually assaulted,
right.
And then a week later the cops announced that, in fact, she is the one who's accused of the murder. And they were out looking for two guys, and the police never gave a real description on the suspects, but they did give a hideout there. But I'm just curious, you're looking back on this, are you surprised it took police this long to figure this case out?
Actually, I don't think it took them that long. I think the night of the murder, they suspected her, but they weren't going to tell anybody that because it's not kind of nice when somebody looks like they're a victim to accuse them of murder.
Right.
So they took their time. But first of all, the rape kit results showed that neither one of them had been sexually assaulted, and they knew that within 24 hours.
Okay.
There was no surveillance video on Bethesda that showed anybody going into that store except the two women. She had moved the car of the deceased woman earlier in the evening. Her wounds were inconsistent with the kind of attack she described. She was tied up by herself, and that was fairly obvious to the cops when they got there. They knew right away that her story simply didn't hold up. Her wounds were obviously self-inflicted. They were all in the front, and they were left to right, right to left, which is a classic self-inflicted wound. They knew right away the story didn't hold water. They were going to take their time and make sure. 1 week is a miraculous way to solve a crime like this. But they knew within 24 hours that she was lying.
All right, from an ethical point of view, if the police have a suspect in mind and they think they know who the murderer is or the killer is, and the rest of the town, a lot of people in Bethesda were nervous about it. A lot of stores had hired their own private security firms. Where's the ethical line of kind of saying that you have a suspect in mind or telling people that they shouldn't have to be worried about anything?
Well, that's a very, very good question. That's more of a public relations ethical issue than it is a legal one, and I think it's a tough one for law enforcement people. They wanted to make absolutely sure before they put the cuffs on her. On the other hand, there was absolute horror in that neighborhood. My wife and I went out to dinner the other night after the murder there, and everybody was kind of moping, looking around over their shoulders. It definitely had an effect on business, and perhaps Chief Manger, the Montgomery County Chief of Police, might want to revisit whether they could have said this a little sooner and told people that they shouldn't be concerned. It's a tough one for them. They had to make sure, although I think they knew within 24 hours that she was the killer.
All right, Joe. Good to talk to you as always. We'll see you in studio Wednesday, is that right?
You bet. See you Wednesday morning.
Can't wait. Thanks a lot. Joe DiGenova, our legal expert, and who will be co-hosting on Wednesday with me.